Morning, everyone. So first, let me discuss on the standard report. Get the screens. So these are the standard reports. These are for all the modules. You can refer it. For example, to start with general ledger predefined reports. So we have account analysis journals. These are the most commonly used reports on day-to-day basis. So the details are there. Account analysis, what it exactly does, and what is the information we are going to get, and what are the different within this report parameters are there, and then we are going to have the details with the sample report format as well. So for example, when we are going to print this is the output of this report. So my suggestion is go through this report, and what you do is already you have primary ledger created and few of the transactions done. So try to run all these reports, whatever I have for the GL. So this will really help you to understand. Because in the interviews as well, they ask what are the, can you list few of the standard reports for each module? So like for GL, AP, AR, something like that. So this will really help you a lot to understand this. So you could see here general ledger, general reports, then trial balance, reports, all those. This one, trial balance is one of the critical reports for the business. So end of whenever we are printing any trial balance, always the ending balance should be zero for all those accounts. If it is not zero, means there is a issue in the trial balance. So all your debits and credits should match, and the final should be zero. Overall, it should be zero. To understand, debits and credits should always be equal. So these are the reports like general ledger reconciliation. So this report is useful for any of the reconciliations which we do with other modules as well. And this really helps a lot for the business. So similar way, for example, GL chart of account reports. We get all the chart of accounts in detail. So just go through that overview of SmartView. SmartView is one of the new feature in Fusion. So earlier we have the FSG report, financial statement generator for balance sheet and income. Now it has been replaced with SmartView. So just go through this, and at least my suggestion is try to run those standard reports once. So you get an overall idea about it. So other reports are also there into this. This will be really helpful. I already copied this, what as standard reports. For other modules as well, I will try to. You could see here, for example, Oracle Fusion Payables predefined reports. So these are few of the reports, invoices, payments, payables to ledger reconciliation, period close, prepayments, income tax, and netting. So in this, majority of these are particularly period close, and there is an exception report that we will discuss when we do the period closing. So all these you can just go through it. The invoices. So already we are working on invoices, so you can have. So what are the period close reports within this? All those prepayments, income tax and withholding. Yesterday we were discussing. Okay. So this is, I have copied in the common folder. Please review that, download it, and always keep handy. because that will be always useful. So now let's get back to the system. So yesterday we discussed on the payments. We created a bank branch and bank account, and we discussed on the concept of payments. We had quick payment, a full payment, quick payment, and payment process request. So today we will have those in the system. The first thing is we are going to first create a advance payment, or we normally call it as prepayment. Then we will get into the payments. So I click on create invoice.
So we can't see a screen.
Otherwise I get some issue. Let me know once you're able to see now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we are going to this. Let me select. Here I'm just going to prepay. So here instead of standard, you're going to have the prepayment. So in this prepayment, click on show more. So we have here allow prepayment application. So we will select apply after 30. So this one needs to be check marked. So we are telling the system to apply any of the invoices which are being created from this date onwards. So here the payment terms will be immediate, and from where this payment term is coming, if you recall, when we are in the invoice setup options, we for the prepayment that the payment terms is immediate. So always as per the business also it will be immediate. The reason being prepayment concept is something where we are going to give advance payment. So it is not something like 30 days, 40 days or 60 days, something like that. Then there is no value of or the definition of prepayment if you are going to make it in 30 or 40 or some other day. So always the prepayment will be into immediate. So this is the term state. So here we are going to have the lines, amount, five. You could see here this we did not enter any debit account. So this is coming by default. So if you recall in the common procurement and invoice options, we have given the liability account. After that, we have given the prepayment or advance payment account. So this is the account which is reflecting directly from that setup. So now we are going to save, validate. You could see here once it is validated, the status will be shown as unpaid. For the invoices, it never shows like that, but here it is showing as unpaid. So let's first have the post to ledger. So let's see the accounting entry for this. So you could see that prepaid expense, which is coming directly from the setup. This is the advance payment account, which is reflecting as debited, and liability is credited. So these two are accounts which are coming from the invoice and procurement common options. Any questions here, please?
So, Basha, in the common option, what is the account we gave? It's 2100.
Advance advance payment. So 2-1 is related to the liability account. Okay, that
Okay.
is nothing but this account. This is the supplier account. 2100 we have given in the liability, if you recall. And we have the advance payment which we have given this 1200. Okay. So now let's make it. So if I click over here, it shows the example unpaid, which is accounted, payments is unpaid. So due date is today itself. Okay. So now we will make a payment for this. So this is something called as pay in full. So I click over here. So the payment window opens. As I mentioned, when we do pay in full, it is only for this supplier, only for this invoice. In the other quick pay or manual pay, we can have for this supplier, but we can have multiple invoices payment. So here we can have only single invoice payment, whether it is a prepayment or standard invoice, we can make it from here. So bank account, you could see this is mandatory. That is the reason we created the bank account in the cash management. Then payment method, payment process profile, you could see here as we have attached. We will select one standard check. We can select this. Now payment document, you could see here the one which we created, Amazon Pay. So this payment document is mandatory because based on this, the number is being generated. So this payment number is different from the document sequence number. In case if you have the multi-currency, the conversion rate, all those things will appear over here. So this is a document sequence or voucher number in case if we do the setup. So you could see here, for example, now I click on publish. So this one payment has been created. Now you could see this is considered as available. Validation is it is available, accounted, and it is paid. Payment it is done. So now invoice actions. Now let's say save and close. So if I click over here, it will show the one which has been created. You could see here, for example, fully paid. So even for example, let's say we go to the other screen, which is payments. We query on manage payments. So supplier, we can query based on this. Was there only. Let's say we meet today the payment date and we can query on this. You could see here, for example, this is the payment number which has been created and payment status is negotiable. Reconciled is no. So what happens is whenever we are going to create any payments and we are using the cash management, the payment status will be negotiable. And once we have a reconciliation with the bank, then this status will change to clear and reconcile will be yes. Now, if I'm going to create earlier the accounting entry which I created, it was for the invoice. Like when we did the prepayment invoice, the accounting entry was generated. And if I'm going to create an accounting entry, let's say accounting draft. So you could see here the accounting entry for the payment. So payment, the liability is debited now, which is, for example, this one, this account, you could see which was earlier being credited trade payables. Once we make the payment, it is debited. And you could see here the cash clearing. We are not getting directly the cash amount here, but the cash clearing. So in the real world, this cash clearing is called as a intermediate account. Till the payment is cleared from the bank, see what's happening now is we made a payment, right? Let's say, for example, you make a payment to me. So in your system, you recorded that you made payment to Basha, so much amount. But unless and until either when you transfer this amount or you make through a bank and it is not reflected to my account, or you gave me a check, for example, I can keep that check for next 1 month or one day as. Then I go to bank and I deposit that check. So it will be deducted from your account. Then only this account will get cleared. We will see that in reconciliation. So it doesn't mean that if you enter in your system and you pay me the check, it doesn't mean that it is cleared, right? Maybe what happens, for example, if I did not deposit the check, or for some reason the check got rejected because of sign or some other issues. So unless and until the bank confirms and deduct your actual balance, so then this account till that time, this account will be credited. Once it is done, the bank account will be debited. Okay, so this is one of the entry I wanted to show you. We can have this as a in full as well. Post to ledger. Post to ledger means the status will be final. We will see more accounting entries for payments when we make it. So I just wanted to show this accounting entry as we discussed earlier. So now we have done this invoices as well as one of the prepayment. Also last time I wanted to show you the drill down of it, which was not working. So now it is fine now. Manage journals. Query for Jan transactions. So here we just made one of the payment, which is this. So I click on this payments screen. So the source is payables, and you could see the category is always payments. Now you could see here that this 75,000. So journal or GL accountant, if you want to understand what is this 75,000, he will click on this. The system will take him to the relevant transactions. So you could see here, this is one of the liability payment created, and this is the invoice number which has been paid. So if we want to view transaction, we are currently in GL, but system will directly take us to this details. You could see paid invoices. So this is the business unit, supplier, all these details will be there. If I want to see more further on this, we can click on prepay. So it will take us to the transaction. Currently we are into the GL module, but based on the access which the person will be having, he can review this. He cannot make any changes. This is all only viewable. No edit can be done. And this is one of the drill down feature which we already have in R12 as well. And this is one of the very powerful feature to drill down any of the source. If you see here source, you can drill down to source of payables, receivables, assets, anything right now from the GL. Okay. Any questions here, please? Okay. So now we assume that we already created a prepayment. So now we will create one or two invoices to match to that prepayment. So we just enter 35,000 standard. By the standard, I can have, for example, payment terms and lines. Let's say I'm talking about 35,000. Inventory accrual. So this is one of the things we save. Okay. So let me go back, save and close. I want to show something else. Okay. So here for the prepayment, setup and maintenance, we are into payables, invoice options. So we have here something prepayment, which the payment terms is immediate, settlement days. Okay, so that optional. So the other important thing is this one. Show available prepayment during invoice entry. So what happens is the moment I mark this form, so whenever we are going to enter any invoices pertaining to that supplier, system will show us as a icon bell that there are prepayments available for these invoices. So we can easily match to that. Okay. Also, I will enable one of the create interest invoices. Interest invoices are those in case whenever if we surpass the due dates, then system is automatically going to create those invoices. So I will take as of now one of the account because I need to create one of the miscellaneous, but as of now I will just select this account temporarily. And you could see minimum interest amount is some organizations they have their limitations like unless and until if it is 1,000 or something like that, not to create, but we'll just put as one. Interest allocation method, single distribution. So it will create a single account. We will see this scenario as well. Save and close. Now let's go back to the invoices. So we just created this. You could see here earlier this bell was not there. Now this bell is showing here against the supplier number. So if I just click over here or come near to this, it shows there is one available prepayment. This prepayment will show till this amount against this, this 75,000 is match. So let's say we are going to have 35,000 match with this. So again, when I create an invoice, it will show here 40,000. So till that time, it will keep showing to us. This is a new feature which is not there in earlier versions of R2, and this really helps the user to understand how many prepayments are there rather than going and searching it out. So now let's validate. It has been validated now. Let's see here, for example, this is unaccounted and unpaid. So that is fine. So I will account only in draft. It's a normal accounting entry. The reason why I prefer you to every time view accounting is you will buy. So after 10 invoice creation, you know exactly that liability means credit and item expense means debit. Okay. So now we have something called as apply or unapply prepayments. So we click over here in case if we want to have this. So you could see here the moment I click on, again I will show this, apply or unapply prepayments. Now the concept of prepayment is, let's say I want to get some material and let's say we are building a house. So I want to, we are getting painted. So unless and until, so I need emergency fund to get some material. So the person or the labor, whoever is working, he will approach me and say, I need so and so material. So I will pay him some amount, like 75,000, for example. What he does is he take that amount, then he goes to some of the painting shop. He purchase the relevant all the painting material from there, and he also brings the invoice. This is a very common thing we always experience when we are constructing or doing any work, household work. So once he is back, he will get the material and the invoice as well. So we have done the prepayment now. As he is back, we are going to apply that invoice. So we already the invoice is generated, which may be of 35,000. So he has to return back to us 45,000, right? Or 40,000. So you could see here, this is of, for example, 75,000 is available. So we are applying only 35,000. It is not mandatory to apply all these amount of 35. Maybe we can apply 25, 10 or whatever it is. It's all business to business. I click on apply. So now you could see here, the applied one will be showing over here. You could see here, this is the accounting date and this is the applied amount. So if I click over here, I can unapply by mistake if I did. Now you could see the 40,000 is still available. I click on done. So you could see this needs revalidation because any changes you do it from this perspective, system expect that it needs to be validated again. So I validate. Now I go back, I click over here, validated. You could see here, for example, payments, 35,000 is paid. We did not go directly and make any payment. Whatever the prepayment was there, which we just applied. So system considers it as a paid, and you could see the unaccounted. Why? Because when we are going to make a payment, system has the different accounting. I'm going to account in draft, not in final. I will give the reason for this. So you could see the accounting. So you could see this is debited, liability is this. When we make a prepaid, you could see the prepaid is applied, which is to the supplier. First is to the prepaid, which is credited, and the liability is credited. So this is the accounting entry. Once the prepayment is applied, the liability will be debited. And item expenses, it's already earlier debited. Now liability will also be debited. So this is how the accounting entry will be matching. Okay. So now let's say, for example, we want to, I will save and close. Again, I'm going to create one of the invoice for the same supplier. $95,000. Lines 95. So here I'm going to validate. So now let's say, for example, apply or unapply. So you could see here still the 40,000 is there. I click on apply. So even though my invoice is of 95,000, but I'm applying only 40,000 because that is the only balance which is left. And these rest of the amount which we will be creating a payment separately. So here I'm going to validate. So this one account in draft will not do it now. I will show the other mechanism to do the accounting for this. Save and close. So we have created multiple invoices here, but which is one fully paid, not paid, unaccounted, and all those. So now let's say, for example, this is not accounted at all. So we are going to have something called as create accounting. So let's assume that there are thousands of invoices which are there. If I want to validate in one shot, we will be validating here with validate invoice. Similar way, we need to create the accounting. So what we do is we have something called as create account. So this option is available for all the subledgers. So I'm going to select here payables and the ledger. We need to have that ledger over here. So this is the primary ledger. And process category you can have for invoices, payments exclusively. If you leave it blank, then it will happen for all. End date is today's date. Accounting method, you can have it in final or draft. So now what is the difference where I was doing from there and here? Any guess? If you remember or recall in the invoice screen also, I used to do the post to ledger and account in draft. Now what is the difference? Can anyone tell me? Yes, please. Any guess? Bharat, Jamal. Give it a try. Let's see.
What was the question again?
Okay, so if you recall, right, in the invoices, once I validate, I go to post to ledger or account in draft. I used to do that, right? I have done that. Now, what is the difference between that and this screen? This
So
one,
that
accounting
particular
mode.
invoice, this is for all the invoices that meet this
This is
Perfect.
criteria.
the batch run.
Exactly. So this
Online
is
and
for
batch.
all the, even
Batch.
it can be payments or even it can be the invoices as well. Okay. So for this. So we are doing for all those invoices, payments, everything in single shot. And normally in the real world, this is scheduled as a batch to run, or it can also be run on ad hoc basis. So we are going to run it as final. If I run it as draft, you could see that transfer to GL will always be no, because in the draft mode, neither we can transfer it. If we cannot transfer it, we cannot post it, right? So only in the final mode we can do this. So process events all, whether invalid and all those, report style. So now when we are posting it, right, what do you prefer? You prefer to have summary or detail? What is your suggestion as a consultant? Yes, please.
Detail.
What I detail? How
Summary.
many say detail? Yes, please. How many say detail and how many say summary? Yes,
I
Bharat
go with summary.
I'll go with
also goes
detail.
with detail. Jamal
Uh,
will go with what?
Details.
Sorry, detail. Okay.
Yeah, if I want
Michael,
one figure, if I want one figure, I can get with the summaries. Otherwise, detail.
okay. Michael, Jasil, Sanjeev,
Detail as
Detail.
for consultant.
okay, detail.
I think
If you
posting
ask
should
me,
happen in the summary level and we can drill down to the detail invoice level.
perfect. So if you ask me, I go with summary. The reason is intentionally why I asked this question is few minutes back I went to the GL screen. I show you one of the payments, right, which was 75,000. It drilled down to the transaction level. So when we have that facility, why we need to burden the GL with all details. So for that reason, report style should be summary, because we already have this data again in the GL side for drill down, right? So for that reasons.
Then what the
In
purpose
case
that option is here?
the option for detail is, in case initially what happens is till the system gets stable, or 1 minute. Sorry. So the option of having detail is some organizations till the system is stable and they get trust on these transactions, data integrations, everything, they keep it detailed. But after 1 month of time, they prefer to move it to summary as well. So transfer to GL, yes, but post in GL will be no. Why do you think it should be no? Why can't I make it directly yes? Yes, please, anyone. I have the option, I can directly post to GL, but I'm not saying it. I'm saying no. What can be the reason?
If any corrections or error, we can do the necessary changes.
That is the one. What can be the second reasons?
To check the matching.
No. I will take an example. Normally, in we all see in Indian movies, one case happens in one police station, one area, and if we approach, someone approach that area, police station, right, and they say this is not in my jurisdiction. So you have to reach out to the other police station where the crime exactly happened. So the same way, whenever we are transferring any balances to the GL team is separate and they definitely needs to post themselves because of the ownership, responsibility, accountability. So for that reason, in any of the organizations that I have implemented, they clearly say that it should always be no, because later on the GL person will review and he will post it. So they want to keep their own control of it. That is also one of the reasons for auditing purposes as well. So these are the major reasons. So the AP person job is just to do it, transfer to GL, post in GL no, and push these transactions. So what happens is, assume that if I have 10 business units and one primary ledger, so when everyone is pushing, it will be difficult to know from which business unit we are getting those transactions. So always the journal batch, we give it as, for example, HYD, BU payables. So in this way, it will be easy to recognize those transactions. Include user transaction. This is for future use, not for as of now, which Oracle doing. So I click on submit. So now whatever the invoices, payments, whether it is one or thousands, everything will be going to the GL in single shot. So we see the scheduled process. Is running. So internally we run the create accounting. This create accounting subprocess generated. System create the post ledger general entries. All these are internal activities which happens. Till the time we reach GL, that should be completed. So journals. So if I, for example, manage journals and I can query here because we said not to be posted. So unposted we can query and search. So you could see here, for example, this is coming as I selected as summary, so all transactions coming in single shot. Now you could see how from which BU it is coming. So we gave a general bash name, which is reflecting here. And you could see here all these transactions are coming when I selected summary means the system has clubbed all those transactions into single batch. You could see here, even though the transactions are different, but you could see here, for example, 10,000. So this is related to one of the invoice validated. Now let's review transactions. Right. So here it shows the details of it. If you recall, we had 15,000 and 10,000 and all those standard invoice. So the details will always be there.
So like here we have if some accounts payable say that stop 75,000 payment, don't post it, then in that case how we are going to handle here?
So here we are. So that is the reason for what happens is, for example, in that scenario, we have to get in detail wise, not in summary. But accounts payable, there is another mechanism of stopping that. Let's say, for example, if they transferred here, correct? So now let's say, for example, assume that we posted. If accounts payable says to stop this, they will not be telling to stop at this level. Why? Because this is an integrated system. So this transaction for sure will be posted, and they are going to do any stopping at the AP level. I will show that how to do it. We have something called as stop payment, void payment, because once the final mode is done and it comes to GL, it has to be posted. Why? Because assume that if, as per the definition, I deleted this transaction or I don't post in GL, but when I go back to the AP module, it will show as it's already done in final mode. So always there will be reconciliation issues. So if it is final and transferred, whatever may be the issues, all those things, first they will post it because for the reconciliation, and later on we come over here. Let's say, for example, either it is an invoice of payment, we will make the clearance. So let's say we're talking about payments. So I will show that now, manage payments. So I will select 31st date, search. So we have this, for example, one of this payment. We made only one payment. Now let's say, for example, this payment is there, 75,000. Now we came to know that there is some issue with this one. Either you could see here the paid invoices for this is it's a prepayment. Now we have an option here. For example, you could see here something called as reissue. Okay. Let me take another one that will be easy to understand. So let's say, for example, we have multiple payments, right? Where we have done one as a prepayment. Now I will have one payment being done from this screen. So this is the second method where we are talking about we can select one supplier. So let me have that. So let's say the supplier is so this is one of the suppliers. Payment date is this. Disbursement bank account. We have this. Payment method, payment process profile, standard check, payment document. Now you could see that the number will be 2. So here the moment I select this pay doc, this gets enabled. So we are going to select these invoices. Now if you see here in the full pay, we had only one invoice and payment. But here in the concept of quick pay, we call it as. So here we have multiple invoices. So now let's say, for example, I have this 45,000, I will select this 55. So I click on OK now. You could see here, for example, there are two invoices, which is 55 and 55, which is 1 lakh amount. But we have, for example, let's say you could see here there is one interest. So this 45,000 is having 15 rupees as interest invoices. Why? Because if you recall, if we cross the due date, so based on that, system will be calculating the interest of it. How we got 15, I will discuss on it. We can give the interest rate as well. So the total payment now is 100,015. So now let's say I'm going to make it. So I click on advance here. So if I want to account and post to ledger, I can do it directly from here, or I can run the create accounting. If there is something urgent payment or clearance payment is done, if something has to be accounted today itself, we can click on this account and post to ledger. Okay, so I save and close. So you could see payments for this one is done. Now if I go back to GL, general accounting journals, manage journals. So we will find here 115 amount as well, which is being reflected. So it will just come in few minutes, so we can see that as well. Okay. Meanwhile, let's assume that this has been posted here. Now we identified or we got the message that we need to stop that payment. So let me manage payments. So here we're talking about the supplier payment date is, for example, today's search. So you could see here, this is one of the payments which is done. Now, let's say, for example, we have, let me open here, and this one. So I click on actions. You could see here void, initiate, stop. Void means we completely cancel this payment. Why we need to cancel it? Because we cannot do anything because this is already accounted. I will go step by step on this. First, I will start with initiate stop. Initiate stop is something where we can mention issue no bank funds. What does it mean? Says, see, sometimes what happens is, let's say, for example, we made this payment in the system, but we are telling to stop initiated means don't issue the check or don't do further processing. So the moment the payment guy sees here stop initiated, maybe for some reason they don't have funds as of now. So they don't want to issue any check because after being entered in the system only, either we do further processing with the bank, wire transfer, or check it will be issued. First, it needs to be entered in the system, right? So now they identified that the funds are not there or something issue is there. So stop is initiated. So what happens is the concerned person will not do further wire transfer or check issue. So once this is sorted out, for example, they can say cancel stop. So the moment they click on this, you could see now they can again initiate the stop. Now, what is the difference between initiate, stop, and void? Void is something where we want to completely cancel the payment. Means for some reasons, there are two things. One is you have taken a training from me. So maybe you gave a check, right? But you identified that Either your signature, you forget to put proper signature, or at that time you were not having funds in the account, so you will initiate stop. But let's assume that you already made payment to the training institute, but for some reason they canceled that batch altogether. So the you already made a payment to them. So now we are going to completely cancel that payment, which is a void. Void means cancellation of the payment. So here, this will be the void date, accounting date, invoice action. What you want to do? You want to cancel the invoice. Maybe only you want to cancel this payment, and later on you want to have again the payment, that is possible. Or you want to do none, means no action, place hold on invoice. So you want to cancel this payment, but you don't want to cancel the invoice, just put a hold on invoice. So later on it can be sorted. So hold name you can just mention as acknowledgement, rejection, or something. Okay,
Cancel
I
mean
click
like
on
a delete?
which one,
Delete
sorry?
from the cancel, that means delete from the system, or just it will appear the action as a cancelled.
This will appear as the invoice will be cancelled, but the invoice will be on hold.
But it will
The
not be
payment will
deleted.
be cancelled.
I mean, action, if you select the cancel, that means it will be deleted from the system, or it will be there and the action will be cancelled.
Okay, so there are cancel means immediately the invoice will also be get cancelled now. Okay,
That no more in the system. That means it will be
no
deleted
more
from
in
the
the
system.
no,
Okay.
not. It will not. It will be there in the system, but it will be considered as cancelled. Nothing will be deleted. Why? Because
Okay.
we already entered the accounting. Everything is done. Okay,
Okay.
so the
Okay.
supplier balance will be reduced now once we cancel. Okay.
Okay.
None means we are not taking any action against the invoice. We are just canceling the payment. But we mention as place hold on invoice means again we need to go back and do the hold release should be done by someone as a person. Because once we put a hold, if we are going to make next payment, system will not allow to do that unless and until that hold is released. So I will just put it as something duplicate invoice or some reasons, acknowledgement, rejection, something. I click on submit. So now what happens is this payment has been voided. There are two invoices on hold. Now, if you see here, for example, these are the paid invoices. You could see here, the moment we put it on hold, these invoices will be on hold for sure. But you could see the amount is minus. Why? Because the system has cancelled this payment. So whenever any cancellation happens, it will be negative. So it is going to deduct, or the supplier balance will be increased now. When we make a payment, it will be decreased, but as we cancel now, it will be increased. And you could see here the payment amount, even though it shows here, for example, it will show the void date. Now, if I go back to the invoice, let's say history.
Hey,
For
Basha, before you go
example,
back, Basha, before you go
yes,
back, can you go to the Actions tab at the top corner?
yeah,
No, on the void payments, how that was. On the payments, and then go to Actions. Yeah, Actions. Okay.
okay.
So,
Because
so
here,
yeah.
yeah,
So go to, select one payment and then go to Actions. Like you want to, and see the stop pay. Yeah, go to Actions. Yeah. So my understanding is that you initiate stop, check with the bank if the payment is issued or not. If not, then void, right? If they have issued, then you can't do anything. You have to request for a credit memo from the supplier. Is that correct or no?
yes. See, initiate stop is something, let's say, for example, we Yes, what you said is correct. There is other definition of that as well. See, normally what happens is, let's say for example, based on these payments, right, whatever are there on the screen or the report they take, there will be another treasury person who will be initiating the payments. Let's say for example, this payment is there. Now what I need to do, if I'm going to do a bank wire transfer, or I log in into the banking portal and I make a payment to that particular supplier. That is one option, right? If initial stop is there means I will not do any further banking activity. And as you mentioned, yes, even though we mention as initial stop, but already you gave me the check, correct? And I already deposited in the bank. So in that scenario, you cannot you have to request, yes, a debit memo has to be requested. At the same time, we need to, we cannot cancel the payment because already the payment is done. So the only way is to have the debit memo for this.
Okay, thanks.
You got, yeah. Okay. So now let's go back and check those invoices as well. Invoices. We have something over here. You could see here, for example, there will be two invoices which will be in the, you could see one of the partially accounted, and this one is cancelled, and you could see here needs revalidation. So if I click over here, right, 45,000. So what is the reason for this? You could see there is one manual hold. If you recall, we just put this hold few minutes back. Acknowledgement rejection. You know, it was held by me by this date. So this time is the server time where it is there as applicable. Now, unless and until I don't release this, we cannot move further. We cannot make any payment as well. Because unless the invoice is validated, we cannot make the payment. So this is one of the best examples on the voiding the payment. So now still the accounting entry is not generated. You could see it is, for example, needs revalidation. But if we see the payments, we need to do the accounting. Why? Because the system has reversed it, but it has to go to GL to impact that one. So normally what we do is either I can, from the payments, I can do the create accounting, or from the invoices as well. But this has to be done because now, till now, the cancellation or the complete cancellation of the payment is done only at the AP level. The GL is not aware of this, right? Because the transaction, only one transaction has been passed to them. So now we are going to run the create accounting. So now whatever has been, when we make a payment, what happens? Supplier is debited and the cash clearing is credited. So now supplier will be credited again. Why? Because the cancellation happens. So we revert back to the supplier balance. Payment cancellation entry reference. So even let's not post to GL. Submit.
So when we are giving a no option in the post in general ledger, so even still in general ledger we have to post, right?
It's mandatory. I will show that.
Then yeah, it's mandatory. But why we can do it as yes, right? Always, even GL person has no right to stop this entry, right?
See, no, GL person has the right to stop this. The reason is, let's say, for example, Maybe they want to post after referring it, right? That is the first point. The second is we being from the secondary or subledger, right? Assume that they are closing, for example. Today they are closing. Okay. And we cannot send at the last moment some of the transactions directly to be posted. It's a call from the GL team to whether to post or to keep it or whatever they want to do. So in that scenarios, it can be many scenarios. I'm just taking one example. Now, if I go back to journals, for sure he cannot delete that transaction here also because that is being linked. So now here I'm talking about unposted. We just transferred it. Now you could see here this one 10015 is unposted. So now you could see that this one, for example, this will be the trade payables, will be the credit entry. This one, if you remember, is one of the interest invoice, and this one is cash clearing will be debited because now it will be reverse. If I go back to this transaction, it will clearly show that it has been voided. So you could see here, for example, view transaction, payment cancel. The event is payment cancel. You could see the payment status is voided. See, ultimately, the concept is because from here, the supplier balance should also be generated. It will be generated from here because of the balance sheet items, financial wise. For example, as a supplier, I may ask you on the payment side, but overall, the statement has to be confirmed and generated by the GL team. Then only it will be considered as the final. Now it will be reverse. Again, when we go back and remove the hold, we can continue further with those invoices. Okay. So this is the complete example on this. So on payment, stopping, prepayment, everything.